Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, and more importantly, staying safe out there this morning. We have some ongoing issues that will just do nothing but become more widespread as we move into the later morning hours into the afternoon hours. We have flash flooding ongoing right now, and this will continue to be the storyline. And not only that, we have a legit tornado risk in southern New England today. So we have the tornado risk and a flooding risk, okay? And I'm already hearing reports on social media of water rescues that's being done. I'm even hearing reports of missing people, potential fatalities. So you guys let me know what you're seeing up there. Of course, worrying about your surroundings and what's going on around you is certainly more important, but tag me on some things on social media. Let me know what you're hearing up here, because I only can know what I know just off social media. And I'm certainly here in South Carolina, not in Massachusetts or New York State, Vermont, or New Hampshire. But you guys always, are great about tagging me into stuff and letting me know what's going on. So definitely do that if you got the time to do it. But a serious situation today, and we'll talk in detail, much detail, on what could happen the rest of the day up in the New England area today. But definitely thoughts and prayers up for you folks. You guys do not need any rain. Certainly been feast and famine in a lot of areas where you're either extremely dry or extremely wet. So we'll talk in detail on that. We'll break down a little bit further west, where in portions of the middle of the country we could have a legit severe weather threat. There's a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 for severe weather. And then we'll break down the possibility of breaking an all-time record high, which is 134 degrees, which was registered, I believe, in the year 1910. I think Death Valley is forecast to hit pretty close to that, but not quite that. So we'll see what happens. So we'll break all that down in this video. We'll get you guys covered. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It's a great way to look out for one another, and more importantly, to glorify God doing it. So let's get rolling here. I've had to start this video over numerous times. Just been struggling this morning. So typically, the more I have to start over a video, the more that I twist my words around and that I mess up. So hopefully we can get a good flow going, because we have a lot of things to talk about. So you can see the pattern pretty well here. I don't have my clicker up, but if you see the flow kind of going up here, and then it crashes back down, then it dips back up, and then it surges back northeast. So this is the ridging, right? We got a ridge right over the southwest pumping in all this heat, and then the flow is aloft up here in the northwest, and then you got the northwest flow, and therefore you got rounds of showers and storms in this wider area. That is what you're dealing with in Nebraska this morning, even also in North Texas. Well, we'll watch this complex of storms that will actually move downstream, affect areas of Louisiana, Mississippi a little bit later today. But the big storyline is, you see this little bit of dry air over Kentucky, Tennessee. You won't be dealing with as much thunderstorm activity in this area today, all the way up through West Virginia, Ohio. But you go east of this boundary, which is our cold front, a little bit of a surface low is going to develop and even enhance the moisture. But not only enhance the moisture, but heighten that tornado threat in southern New England throughout the next several hours. And then you see the more wider colors, grayer colors. That is where there's more moisture in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is just super saturated, especially up here along the I-95 corridor. The closer you are to the coastline, and just the best southerly flow you got, the more rain you're going to get, and how juiced up the atmosphere is. The more how juiced up the atmosphere is. And we look at the radar. We have a huge flash flood warning that was just issued in southern New Hampshire. And we have them up for the mountains of northern New Jersey, like the Poconos region. Even flash flood warnings up for Delaware right now. Just a steady stream of moisture going through this area. This isn't something that's going to develop later today. This is happening right now. It's raining in the entire state of Vermont and New Hampshire, most of Massachusetts, and this is riding right over the Berkshires, right over the White and Green Mountains of New Hampshire and Vermont. And this will continue, and there's going to be embedded spin-ups in this line of storms. This will continue. But if you work your way a little bit further west, well, a lot further west, you are dealing with a complex of storms right in here. This will continue to move further southeastward and affect areas of the Dallas-Fort Worth region a little bit later here in the coming hours. And then we'll watch to see what this does up in Nebraska as it continues to also ride the upper portion of this ridge and surge southeastward. So we look at the Storm Prediction Center update for today. A slight risk right here, pretty broad marginal risk that extends all the way from western Kansas, central Nebraska, all the way to areas of northwest Indiana, which includes, Chicago, Illinois, Peoria, Springfield, but a slight risk for areas like Kansas City, Topeka, Manhattan, Salina, Wichita. You guys have that slight risk today, and then a skinny kind of marginal risk down here where we'll watch what's going on in North Texas. It'll move southeastward and potentially give the chance for some severe weather into Louisiana later today. But check out this slight risk in southern New England. Okay, we'll zoom into this later in the video, but this is wild. Okay, we got a tornado risk, a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in Boston, all of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, pretty much all of Massachusetts. This does include New York City. Okay, the wind threat, 5% risk in this, a 15% risk of winds exceeding that's 55 to 60 miles per hour or higher in this yellow area. You got a 15% risk of that, but you got a hail threat, and we have an elevated hail threat where we could get some big time hail today. You have the 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, and you also have that 10% risk of significant hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger in this black outline region with the black dashes going in between it. Okay, the flash flooding risk, just regular marginal risk in these regions, but we have not upgraded to a high risk, and I think it's just because this isn't going to be as long-lasting maybe as the other event that happened several days ago, but we have kind of grown in length from south to north, north to south in this moderate risk. This extends all the way into central Maine now, all the way down into the northern tip of Delaware, where we have a moderate risk of flash flood guidance being met. Okay, so that means we have at least a 40% risk of flash flooding within 25 miles in a given location. This includes Philadelphia, Trenton, New York, Hartford, up to Boston now, Providence, Albany, Concord, all the way up almost includes Augusta, Maine. So a lot of areas here, right? So this is a big deal, and this is ongoing right now as I speak. Okay, we look at watches and warnings. Smoke is a big deal today too. I don't have a smoke thing pulled up or anything in this video like last night's video, but I can tell you, you're waking up to smoky conditions already this morning. And where you see this gray color right here, that is air quality alert. So please be aware of this today. A lot of smoke around. It was already around yesterday evening. This will continue to be around this area. Some dense fog advisories up in Ohio. And then if you look right here in the Northeast, you have just basically the entire Northeast have flood watches, except in western sections of PA and New York State where you don't. In those little small red areas, that's flash flood warnings. Normally I pull up the better map on Pivotal Weather, but it just for whatever reason it does not show the air quality alerts on that map. But heat advisories, a very hot day again in Texas, Louisiana, not quite as hot as what we've seen, but we do have excessive heat warnings down here in Miami where we'll have very hot temperatures and also very high humidity. And of course, you're baking out in the Southwest, excessive heat warnings everywhere in the dark pink or the purplish color. We will break record highs today. We broke a record high in Phoenix. We hit 118 degrees. We'll flirt with that again today. Just miserable heat up here. A quick update on the tropics. We still have subtropical storm Don. This could weaken into a depression later today into the overnight hours and then maybe re-strengthen into a tropical storm. We will be dealing with this for a while. He's just having fun out here, just chilling, going in circles. The pattern is blocking this from really fully heading way out into the North Atlantic and dissipating. So it's going to end up turning, kind of moving back south. And I think Don's going to be with us for a while, but there's not a whole lot to speak on it. The rest of the tropics remain pretty quiet. I'm watching a little bit of a tropical wave on the models, maybe 5 to 7 days out from now, but nothing really to discuss in great detail. It remains pretty chill out there, which is kind of typical for July. July typically is sometimes a quieter month than like June. It's just a dead period, kind of where hurricane season almost spikes a little bit very briefly in June in the early portion, then it drops, and then it really begins to ramp up as we get into August. The Southeast today, kind of a broad take at this. What we will really watch is I think we'll have a bunch of shower and storm activity in the panhandle of Florida today and North Florida, where you guys could pick up a lot of rain. And then the other storyline is this complex of storms that as we get into the afternoon hours blast through maybe extreme southern areas of Arkansas, almost all of northern Louisiana, and we'll already have a moist flow setting up like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, the Bayou. I think you guys could have a very stormy late afternoon, evening time frame in this region, and these will blast through. A little bit closer look at this. Quiet all the way through the morning hours, some pop-up downpours and more concentrated area of showers and storms could get going in the panhandle of Florida. And as you can tell, you can see these downpours out in southern Louisiana, extreme southern areas of Mississippi, and then a more organized area of storms might blast through Shreveport later this afternoon, maybe Monroe, might make it all the way to Lake Charles, and then we'll see what happens as we get into the late evening hours where some heavy rain could fall. Some of these could be severe, some gusty winds, maybe some small hail is possible with this. These could drop a good bit of rain. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible here in the bayou of Louisiana, swamp regions. New Orleans could get 1 to 2 inches of rain today, so expect a very rainy afternoon and evening time frame in this region right down here. A lot of rain could fall in the panhandle too, and in fact, we'll go on and discuss it. But one thing you'll notice here is you see the drop off. There's a pretty sharp gradient. So if you're in northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, like Atlanta, up to Tennessee, don't expect, even northern Arkansas, don't expect much showers and storms today. You got to go to the southern sections along the Gulf Coast. Florida, I think you're going to get a big time stormy afternoon. Now, these are just regular summer type thunderstorms, but I think they will be much more widespread in the central to eastern areas of the panhandle of Florida, into the Big Bend areas of Florida. It could get quite stormy around the Gainesville, maybe even Jacksonville area later today. And then these eventually will potentially develop a little bit further down the southern peninsula of Florida, down here closer to Orlando, down both the eastern and western coastline of Florida. And they might not make it all the way down to Miami, but I think a lot of rain could fall in this region of Florida today. And in fact, you look at how much rain the Big Bend areas and then the central panhandle of Florida going for anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain in this area later this afternoon, this evening. A lot of rain could fall. So watch out for that. The Carolinas, rest of Georgia, I think it'll be a quiet day. Some dry air loft moves in and then prevents really any storm development, but you cannot rule out any pop-up downpours really anywhere, but they'll be extremely isolated today. It's not going to be near as stormy today as it was yesterday. A pretty calm day, relatively speaking. But as we move into the later evening hours, some pop-up downpours are possible when you're in the Carolinas, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia. And most of Virginia will be quiet, but what we will watch for is these storms will try to organize in the eastern sections of Virginia later today in this region. And I think that we could have some stormy times here and Richmond into Norfolk later today, into the coastal regions of Maryland, the southern areas of the Delmarva region. And I think it could get quite stormy later this afternoon for sure. And then I think by the time we get into this evening, it'll relax some. But expect some stormy times in eastern Virginia, the southern sections, coastal sections of Maryland and Delaware. We move up to the northeast. This will take up a lot of the video. So if you don't live in the northeast, don't blame you for skipping ahead. But this is going to be a big topic in the weather world over the next 24 hours. And we have in the red, which is, current. By the time some of you folks watch this, this won't be current. We have flash flood warnings ongoing. But everybody in the dark green, that is, I always brain fart this here. This is flash flood watches, things like that. So flood warnings in the light green, flash flood watches in the dark green. So we got big time flooding issues that are going to be ongoing throughout the time frame here the next 24 hours. So this is nothing new. We saw this from about 48 hours out, how this was developing. Now, something that has increased is you see this yellow area that is a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. And this is really driven off the tornado risk. In the brown, you have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Okay, this includes New York City, all of Long Island, all of Connecticut, all of Delaware, and pretty much all of Massachusetts except out in Cape Cod and the extreme northern northeast tip of Mass. Even some sections of extreme southern Vermont and New Hampshire. But you also got the 2% risk of a tornado that extends all the way up into southern Maine. Okay, so this is a storyline that does not need to be overlooked, and we'll talk about that in detail. But let's talk about the Mid-Atlantic. I already mentioned these storms that are likely going to fly through eastern Virginia But expect some stormy times. I mean, you already got ongoing rain, but expect some more storms to fly through New Jersey, extreme eastern PA. Some rain will be lingering around the Washington, D.C. area. But, this is around 1 p.m. There is going to be some embedded potential spin-up, some rotation in some of these storms. So not only are you dealing with this heavy tropical rains in New Jersey, Delaware, New York City area, Long Island, watch out for not only flash flooding, this is around 1 p.m., some embedded spin-ups. These will be, if any tornadoes form, they're not going to be like these long track tornadoes. They will be very quick. I mean, come down, spin up for seconds to a minute, and then probably go back up. It's almost like, and that's what a lot of tornadoes do in tropical systems. They're very quick. They don't last long. They're very brief. But this isn't a tropical system. This is a tropical air mass, though. But this continues. We're getting to 3 p.m. Big storms riding over the coastal regions, riding right into southern Maryland, heading right into and already ongoing in Delaware. Very stormy times, very stormy in Long Island. It looks like it's starting to kind of pull out the New Jersey area, New York City area, but it's still storming like crazy in Long Island. And we'll break down southern New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut here in a second. But these storms will be rumbling in this region. These will be severe. And then I think by the time we get into the evening hours, you're having dinner, heading off to bed, things will really begin to simmer down in this region. But, rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, guys, anywhere from 1 to 2, 3 inches of rain. Additional rain expected for Delaware, New Jersey. Look at this area of higher rain totals, even extreme eastern areas of PA, 1 to 2 inches of rain. This goes right up through New York City and Long Island, where 1 to 3 inches of rain is expected into this region. You got to watch out for the embedded spin-ups too. We go up into southern New England. We match this with what's actually going on the radar into this region. We'll see if this can come through quickly for us. And it's doing pretty decent into this region. So we got a big area of showers and storms, heavier rain moving through the western sections of Connecticut and Massachusetts. And let's try to figure out the frame we're at. And we're right here. This will continue. The HRRR model is doing about as good as you can expect. But this will continue to fly over this region. We're at lunchtime at this point, raining like cats and dogs in pretty much all of Massachusetts except extreme eastern areas and southeastern areas of the states. You got embedded storm activity ongoing through this region. I think there will be a legit tornado risk ongoing late morning, lunchtime, early afternoon. And this continues to fly through this region. This is 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. It is still just raining like crazy. Even some stronger storms popping up here in New Hampshire. Vermont. So, you could get some strong to severe storms. If the atmosphere recovers up here, there's enough juice of the atmosphere for some stronger storms to develop up here, on the eastern areas of the Adirondacks into the, the Green Mountains of Vermont, Berkshires. Strong storms are possible. But you got like this line of storms developing right over southern New England, Long Island, that's kind of very slowly moving over the same areas. And I'll talk about this in a second. What you got to understand is this isn't a regular, just kind of summer type atmosphere here in southern New England. This is a true tropical air mass, something you would see in Florida, moving and skirting over areas of New England. And this continues. And then I think by the time we get into the middle of the night tonight, things, for the most part, unless you live out in Nantucket or something, Martha's Vineyard, I think by the time you get into tomorrow morning, things are pretty chilled out. Rainfall, just additional rainfall. And you got to note, some of this rain is going to greatly exceed what these totals are showing. Okay, but 2 to 3, 4 inches of rain right over Connecticut, Massachusetts, even elevated area rain right in this region that's falling right now, right into the Green and White Mountains of New Hampshire and Vermont. Right up into Maine, which we'll talk about here in a second. A lot of rain could fall. I would say more so the latter half of the day here in southeast Mass, 2 to 3 inches of rain. Just a lot of rain, guys. And some of this could fall very quickly. I believe they had a report where 5 inches of rain fell, and I believe western Mass in a very, like an hour and a half. Okay, that is going to cause flash flooding for anybody. Not only that, guys, okay, but look at the updraft velocity swath. Okay, this shows where there could be embedded spin-ups. This is not super impressive, but you see a couple little highlighted areas and on this entire region, all these states. So this pretty much pinpoints it pretty well. We're going to have just isolated spin-ups embedded in all this tropical range that's going to surge through this region. So please, if you get a tornado warning, guys, I'm telling you, take it serious, because this would be a spin up that literally just can drop right on top of you. And it's not going to be like a photogenic tornado. This is going to drop right on top of you, and then you're not even going to know it's coming, So Maine, widespread rains really become widespread later this morning, I would say. It's going to be a very rainy Sunday. It's just going to be a Sunday in New England, the Northeast, where you're just going to want to just hang out inside, read a book, but also stay weather aware, right? Especially if you live in some of these valleys and towns that live immediately downstream from these higher elevations. But heavy rain overspreading, moderate to heavy rain overspreading Maine. And this will continue. Even rain all the way into the down east areas of the state later tonight. And just a lot of rain's going to fall up here also. And you look at how much in the next 24 hours, especially western and southwestern areas of the state, 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible. In the down east areas of Maine too, 1 to 2 inches of rain. And even some appreciable rainfall totals up here in northern Maine. So please be aware. We talk about what's driving this, guys, and this is precipitation values. Once you start to get over 2 inches and these precipitation values, that means the atmosphere is absolutely saturated. It's juiced up, and basically the atmosphere is squeezing out every bit of moisture possible. There's no real dry air aloft, and we keep this rolling here. And this is this afternoon, and this is just a big plume of high-end moisture riding right over the I-95 corridor into southern New England, all the way up to Maine. You got precipitation values over 2 inches all the way up into Maine, and you look at a sounding in and around the Boston region, guys, and it shows it well. I talked about this sounding is a little bit contaminated, but the dew points riding right up against the actual air temperatures, which means the atmosphere is completely saturated all the way up into the upper levels of the atmosphere, 30 to 40,000 feet up in the air. Typically, you get little dry punches of air into these areas. You're not getting that with this. There's no dry air aloft unless you get 40,000 feet up in the air or something. So, the atmosphere is absolutely loaded with moisture up into this region. So, one thing you'll look at is the kinematics, a little bit of a surface low developing into this region. This is going to bring enhanced low-level winds. So this is the low-level jet winds in general, about a mile up in the atmosphere, screaming at about 30, 40, 45 knots. So that is going to support a changing in direction with speeds. A changing in speeds with height is what I meant to say. I don't know what I was just said. But there's also could be a little bit of enough to spin to the atmosphere as you go higher up in the atmosphere. This is going to support some spin in the atmosphere for a quick spin up in this region. Look at this low-level jet riding right over Boston, for example. Okay, this is some enhanced kinematics in this region. We call this a low-level jet, and this will ride right over areas of southern New England, especially southeastern sections of southern New England, as a little bit of a surface low develops and enhances the kinematics. Kinematics meaning the wind pattern aloft that supports tornadoes and wind damage. So please be aware of that. South Central today, there's 2 areas to watch. One is this region right here that we're expecting some strong to severe storms to skirt across areas of northern and northeast Texas. And then we will watch some additional storms that could produce some large hail damaging winds that will develop very quickly later this evening in Kansas. Okay, these will move and then kind of skirt south. Some of it will move further southeast instead, and they'll kind of do a splitting action right into here. So that is the 2 things to really watch in this area, and we'll zoom into this region. I would watch out if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, along the Red River regions, even extreme southern areas of Oklahoma. I'd watch out kind of the Dallas-Fort region, probably sometime around lunchtime today, give or take an hour. Some big-time storms could ride through your area. If you're in northeast Texas, some big storms could make their way into this area later this afternoon, mid to late afternoon, and then these will ride into Louisiana, which we already talked about. But, this is pretty much the only area to watch. Some damaging winds, some hail. Some hail could be in this area. Tornado threat very low, but as always, It's not non-existent. So please be aware of that. And then up here in Kansas, we will watch, we get into the afternoon, the evening hours. You can't ignore some stronger storms. They are possible. Very isolated in nature, more conditional in western areas of Kansas where you do have that significant chance of hail, a slight risk. So any cells that do form out here in western Kansas could I'm twisting my words up, guys, could produce some very large hail, and definitely be aware. And then as we get into around the 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. time frame, I think some powerful storms could sweep through Manhattan, Salina, down to Wichita, Topeka, all these regions right in here, maybe as far east as Kansas City. HRRR model has these storms missing Kansas City, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. These make it all the way into northeast Oklahoma into the wee hours of the morning. Watch out Tulsa, kind of into the early morning hours tomorrow morning. North central U.S., kind of a showery day up here in extreme northern and northeast Minnesota, the UP of Michigan. You could get some storms also in northern Wisconsin, but just more so some showers, some bursts of heavy rain in the UP of Michigan is quite possible. Like I said, northern Minnesota, and just some things pivoting around this low up here in Canada will make its way through. Very smoky conditions. Very smoky. You're probably already seeing it as you're waking up this morning. And we'll kind of fly through this entire region right into here. So just expect some showery conditions today. We move a little bit further south. My folks here in Missouri and Illinois will watch for maybe an organized area of showers and storms could fly through areas of Missouri a little bit later today. You might get a storm in St. Louis later this afternoon. This might move into the heart of Illinois a little bit later today, and then all the way into Indiana. Some of these will be severe, I'm betting. And, this is this evening, 8, 9 p.m., showers and storms flying through the region. And then maybe a more organized area of showers and storms makes its way through kind of the northern half of Missouri and moves into the St. Louis area and then the southern sections of Illinois, maybe even western Kentucky, as we make our way into the wee hours of the morning tonight. So if you live in this region right into here, don't be surprised if you wake up to some rumbles of thunder overnight tonight. The Rockies, the western U.S., it's very quiet moisture-wise. There's not a whole lot going on except some isolated downpours and storms in extreme southeast areas of Arizona and southern areas of New Mexico. It seems like I've repeated that same thing many times. You actually could get an isolated downpour. Maybe in the mountainous regions of California. Heck, it might even flirt with Death Valley somehow. But outside of that, quiet conditions. Maybe you might wake up to a streamer of moisture right through areas of Oregon. We'll see what happens. Temperatures, summer type temperatures in the southeast, the deep south, 70s, rain cooled air, very tropical type air mass up here in the northeast. It's downright chilly. And look at northeast Minnesota, some fall type conditions. Temperatures only in the 50s, only in the 60s and 70s in the UP, Wisconsin. 60s and 70s, maybe some 80s down here in southern sections of Minnesota. Comfortable up here in the Dakotas, hot once you get down here, but not quite as hot as we've seen down here in Texas. But we move out west. This is where we get into record-breaking territory, 90s all the way up into the lower elevations of Washington State, Idaho, Oregon. Very hot in Las Vegas today, very hot in Arizona. We zoom into a couple regions right in here. You will get into the 1-teens today in Phoenix, Arizona, 1-teens again in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then, you take a look at the forecast from the National Weather Service in Death Valley, Furnace Creek area. They're going for 129 degrees today. What's wild is, let's see if we can get an update from this, is 96 degrees right now at 4 a.m. Pacific time. So imagine that. But it's going for 129 degrees for a high today. All-time record high is 134, I believe. We'll see what happens. You never know. That's all I got, guys. God bless all y'all. Stay safe up in the Northeast today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.